Well, we just have to keep on coming with the Toronto condo catastrophe, the 416 rolling disaster, because just new stuff happens all the time. New stats come in, new information arises. And by the way, there's never any good news about this. So let's just sort of recap the enshittification of dog crate condos pre-construction in the 416 and in the GTA. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff we know. We know that there's tens of thousands of these units coming on stream. We know that there are units right across the street from these completed buildings that are selling for substantially less. They're the same size unit. Let's call it 495 square feet across the street. Is currently being offered. It's maybe 2 years old. They've been that guy's been in there 2 years. He's selling now, and he's looking to get $875 a square foot, $850 a square foot. Because he wants to sell. It's time to sell. He's got to get out. He needs to sell that property, and he has a much lower cost base because his was completed 2 years ago. So he's at $875, $850, and you are closing on a condo across the street. It's just coming to completion, and you're going to close on it in a matter of a couple of months. And your price per square foot you paid was $1175. And your basic position is that you're confuckled. I mean, like, what am I going to do here? So there's been some interesting contributory news on this stuff in the last 3 weeks. A lot of it is based on government information. So, for instance, we now know, we knew that the students were going back, like the temporary foreign student visas were coming to an end, and that there was going to be no more new student visas issued, except in an enormously lower amount. Instead of 600,000 back to 165,000 that was just going to universities instead of all this community college insanity. So that's already starting to show up. In other words, the government is showing, and I know everybody likes to say, they're lying, it's a plan, they're lying. I don't think they're lying. Based on everything I'm seeing about laying off of all these teachers at these community colleges and all their crying and moaning, I think that's not a lie. And, but they're going to stay as refugees. Well, actually, it's becoming pretty clear that they're just going back. I mean, they're going back home. Not all. Some will apply as refugee status. But we've now got clear indications that cohort is going. We've got clear indications that the temp worker change, the temp worker visa change that the government announced last year is now kind of coming into fruition. There's clear statistical evidence that there are temp visa people leaving Canada. Temp visa workers Canada are leaving Canada. They're going back. So one of the biggest impacts on rents, and rents continue to fall, is, and even potentially on future buyers, but certainly on rents, is population decline. So people say, well, Ron, I don't think it'll ever decline. You should go talk to some of the people who lived in Detroit 35 years ago about population decline. But I'm not suggesting anything like that in Ontario or 416, but I am saying that populations can decline in the sort of scenarios of change of government policy, bad economic situations that we're experiencing today, potential recession, unemployment. Yeah, people go back home. That's just the way it works. Another thing that is really becoming clear is that purpose-built rentals, the CMHC purpose-built rental program, is really bearing fruit bigly. There are tons and tons of purpose-built rental units coming on stream. We see the ads for them, and they are juicy ads. They're low rents. There are rents that used to be, people were getting $2,600 for that kind of a unit. All of a sudden, we see offers at $2,100 plus 3 months free rent, plus this, plus that. I mean, if you want to look, you will find a ton of incentives for rentals, just a ton. Okay, so look, the reality is bleak and getting bleaker. I mean, what will be the eventual outcome because there's more of these coming up every day, and we're hearing more and more rumors because it's kept tightly under control. The issue of whether or not there's trouble in convincing people to close, or there's too many people walking away saying, look, you keep the deposits and sue me. I can't handle this idea. I can't handle the idea that I've lost already $250,000, and if I pay you this extra money that I'm going to need to pay you because I can't find a mortgage for that amount. But mostly I'm going to take a dead loss of $250,000 and I'm going to lose $1,600 a month versus mortgage payment, condo payment, property tax versus the rent I can get. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to lose another $20,000 a year guaranteed on top of the $250,000 I lost. You keep my deposits and let's fight later. Okay. We know what's happening. We hear all kinds of reports of it, but we don't actually see it written up in the media. We don't have stories going about it because the story that will come out someday is Condo couldn't close. This 320 unit building could not form a condo corporation. There's too many people said no, and it's not happening. So that is this crucial moment. That is the singularity. What would happen? And I've talked to a lot of people about what might happen, and because this has been a focus of mine for over a year. And it looks like what might happen is this might happen. The banks take over the building. The banks who are involved in the construction financing take over the building through receivership, and they find a way to market it to a REIT or a pension plan to turn the whole building into a purpose-built rental, to a rental accommodation. Now, there's a lot of twists to this, like what happens to the people who are willing to close? Do we get to keep all the deposits? Like what's going on here? So and the first one that happens is probably going to set the pattern, but that's what we're looking at. That seems to be, it's a growing consensus that is what needs to happen. Oh, and by the way, that actually makes matters worse because it'll be one more purpose-built rental building offering lower rents on all those units with a lot of incentives and hammer the future closing condos even more. So no good news, and we'll keep you up to date.